Hi again, everyone. I'm Patrick Fingston from the Illinoize, and we are talking about Mike Madigan, as you might imagine today, the former Speaker of the Illinois House who was indicted on federal racketeering charges. A lot of smoke over the years with the federal investigation, especially as it got hot around ComEd and with some of Madigan's top sidekicks in Springfield. We thought we'd bring on the guy that may know more about Mike Madigan than any other reporter in the state, and that's Ray Long of the Chicago Tribune. Has a new book, The House That Madigan Built, The Record Run of Illinois' Velvet Hammer. Ray, welcome. Good to talk to you.
Good to be here.
So let's start here. I heard two reactions to the Madigan indictment. It was one, they finally got him, or two, I can't believe they finally got it. Was this something that either they on the inside or you who has seen the sort of circle closing around him, was this any surprise?
Well, for me, I knew that the grand jury had been meeting continually. We'd reported that, and we reported that they were bringing in some former lawmakers to talk to them about how Madigan ran Springfield. So as long as I knew that they were still meeting, I thought there was a chance that they were going to try to bring an indictment. So they've been working on it for a long time. You know, they had identified him in July 2020 as public official A, and ComEd had actually admitted that they had put people on the payroll back then for years that were aimed at getting on Madigan's good side. So these were cronies of Madigan's who were political folks who either served as former aldermen or had helped him out in his ward or his overall political organization. He had also been able to secure a dozen or so interns every year for I don't know how long years, but they were college kids from his 13th ward, which is his power base in Chicago. He's committeeman there. He's been committeeman there since 1969. And one of the other ones that has been a real touchstone here is that he pushed and got a person who he wanted to be on the board of directors for ComEd, a regulated industry. So we saw all that unfolding as far back as July 2020, and the grand jury had not shut down yet. So they added a few more things on March 2nd too.
I got the sense that they weren't surprised by this, Madigan's camp.
Right. I don't think they were. I had heard that they had been expecting this, but I don't know if that's a strategy or whether that's a reality, but I don't think it was good news that they wanted either way.
Mm-hmm. A grand jury, could indict a ham sandwich, as the old story goes. So let's talk about the actual indictment itself. This isn't a specific bribery case. This isn't a specific, the Rod Blagojevich case was clearly along bribery because he was saying this for that. This is a bigger, more complicated charge in racketeering because the federal government is saying that Madigan and McLean and Solis and the rest of these guys that have been mentioned were operating a criminal enterprise like the mob, the RICO's for mob. How does this for that, the quid pro quo, how does that turn into an alleged criminal enterprise?
Well, interestingly enough, the four original defendants, McLean and Ann Pramaggiore, the former CEO of ComEd, and a couple of lobbyists, argued that before their judge. They've all been indicted. They were indicted in November of, I guess it was 2019. And they've all argued that there was no quid pro quo, and therefore there could not be an actual bribe, or there couldn't be a bribery scheme. And the judge rejected that notion, saying that, hey, if you had been putting people on the payroll in hopes of getting something in return, then that could be considered an exchange. And so it may not be your typical, I'll give you $50 under the table if you'll vote for this bill, or hopefully the price is even higher than that. but they have ways of interpreting the law that they believe and they believe it was broken here.
He's notoriously careful. I mean, overly careful, more than
Right.
any of us would ever be talking on the phone. He doesn't own a cell phone. You know, he is very, very shrewd in his career over these things. We know McLean was wiretapped. I think we've gotten the sense now that Solis was wiretapped. And there were some comments made by Madigan that were supposedly caught on tape with Solis. Mm-hmm. But there's not going to be a red flag there. There's not going to be a smoking gun, right? I mean, and I know that there were some things that he may have kind of said, yes, that's acceptable sort of thing. But this isn't going to be, I've got this thing and it's bleeping golden, right? I mean, no. This is going to be a lot more complicated to prove.
Right. It's going to be more subtle because Madigan was a more subtle guy than, say, a Blagojevich, who you were just citing there. This is a guy who, even when he was relaxed, was not somebody who would be using outlandish language. So he has been very careful over the years, like you said. And there are phrases that if you read the indictment very carefully, you'll find him saying that giving the go-ahead in kind of cryptic language to do things like kill a piece of legislation, or giving permission allegedly to kill a piece of legislation that ComEd wanted killed. And so then you would pick up on a telephone call that Mike McLean might have called up ComEd, and then maybe emailed ComEd and said, look, Madigan told me this. He gave us the green light to kill this bill. He also wants some people on the payroll. They may not have all been in the same conversation, but there are pieces that prosecutors believe they have been able to thread together that show that there were crimes committed.
It seems that, obviously his circle is notoriously close, very tight.
Right.
And even his top lieutenants in the legislature, the Barbara Flynn Curry, the Lou Lang, the Jay Hoffman, the Greg Harris, at the end, as you get the impression that, and I've definitely gotten this as I've talked to former staffers, that there was never a shred of doubt in their mind that everything they were doing on the official side was on the up and up. So was it because any potential bad stuff was happening without their knowledge, or were they kind of turning a blind eye?
It's hard to get into everybody's head, but Madigan and the people around him insisted that he always stayed between the lines, and that he never crossed the line and went into areas that were illegal, that he was meticulous, that he was careful, and that he didn't want to be, like you said, talking on the telephone about details about things. But what we've seen here is, over the years, is that a lot of the people who had surrounded Madigan truly believed that too, and that he was somebody who wouldn't cross the line. So I do believe that some of those folks are probably surprised right now, and they may have lost track of where the lines are after you control the process for so long. Even though you draw the lines and you write the laws, maybe there were times that you just got caught in the whirlwind. I don't know that for fact, but I could see after a while that you could push things and push things and push things, and the nearer you get to the line, the better the possibility that you could slip over it.
I'll come back to the indictment before we wrap up, but I want to talk about a few of the things in your book.
Okay.
To start with, how does this working class Irish kid become such an influential political figure? He's obviously smarter and harder working than most people, but being smart and hardworking doesn't necessarily mean powerful.
Right.
He's not a Daley. He's not one of those legendary Chicago political families. So how did he become Mike Madigan from the Southwest Side to the all powerful?
Well, it's a study of context. Really, his father had been a ward superintendent, and his father had also worked in a Cook County government office with a guy named Richard J. Daley. And Richard J. Daley, of course, became mayor of Chicago, and it helped to be in contact with the boss. Mike Madigan's dad told him, you go to the same fitness club or health club that Daley does, you ought to go introduce yourself. And so they hit it off. And over the years, Daley watched Madigan grow. And when he got into the legislature, of course, he was a delegate for the Constitutional Convention. Madigan was the ward committeeman when he was in his late 20s. So he was the youngest ward committeeman at the time. I think Daley saw that he was a bright guy too. He went to law school at Loyola and worked in the city law department there for a brief time. And then when he became a lawmaker after two or three terms, Daley started turning to Mike Madigan to relay what messages he wanted the troops to know. Madigan was a majority leader under Bill Redmond, who was the House Speaker, and Bill Redmond was a compromise choice. He was actually voted in during the big house of 177, and he was a Democrat from DuPage County. So Daley needed somebody who he could trust from Chicago, and he had this bright young guy named Mike Madigan who he reached out to. Mike Madigan was a student of Richard J. Daley's and also tried to reach out and become a powerful political figure. He even said at one time that you can handle the speakership just about any way you want, but I chose a long time ago that I wanted to be a powerful speaker. So he, along the way, ended up controlling the levers of politics, where and how the cash came into the campaign funds and who got the cash, and he controlled the legislative process and what bills got passed and what bills didn't, and he controlled the actual rules of the House and what bills could even be considered. So he had this overarching reach, as well as becoming the Illinois Democratic Party chairman. So he had influence throughout the state, and he had a major role in the whole process in Springfield. When he controlled the House, he could be a virtual stopper for any kind of legislation he doesn't want. He could become a green light if he got something that he wanted. And he knew that he could negotiate different things that would all go toward building his power. Even when he looked at bills, he would look at the bills to determine whether each one could be tweaked to try to enhance his power, to enhance the power of one of his lawmakers, one of his rank and file lawmakers. And he was just largely all controlling.
I saw John Boehner speak once about 10 years ago, and he talked about being speaker as, trying to keep 228 frogs in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
So it's a speaker at whatever level is a hard job. And Chris Welch is finding that out as we see. But Madigan becomes speaker in 82, the year before I was born, by the way, just to put into context just how long he has been at the top of the mountain until last year. Right after the cutback amendment. So it was kind of a new era in the legislature. Was he able to just reshape it as he saw fit, or did he, as speaker, consolidate power that had been spread out in other places?
Well, I think it's a combination of both, really. I mean, he took advantage of the cutback amendment. You're right. He became speaker after the winning in 82, after the Democrats won in 82. He started his 36-year run as speaker in 83 and moved on to hold on to this power. And nobody had done that before, and nobody probably will since. And one of the reasons is because the cutback amendment moved lawmakers from 3 lawmakers in each district, 2 from a majority party and 1 from a minority party, to 118 single member districts. And as a result, you have 118 single freelancers who are all looking for a way to attach themselves onto the power. And he was the one who could deliver the power and the backing. And when they needed help, he could give them help.
His politics, though, and in a world today where the Democratic Party has moved farther left, I mean, Joe Biden wouldn't have been considered a Democrat by today's standards if he weren't that guy that could have won in 2020. J.B. Pritzker is far more liberal of a Democratic governor than, say one of the guys in the 60s was. So Madigan was not a hardcore progressive luminary,
right.
here. So, and was definitely far more relatable to the blue collar union guys than especially like your North Shore Democrat progressives, Lakeshore liberals today.
Right.
How did he balance that? Because as we've seen politics get more partisan, more nasty, the moderates, if you want to call him that, which moderate is maybe not the right term, but not a tried and true blue-hearted liberal. How did he handle his politics with the way he had to deal with a caucus?
Well, he looked for how the caucus was moving. And one of the more interesting interviews I saw in my research was that he had said, I don't put an adjective before Democrat. So I don't consider myself conservative, moderate, or liberal Democrat, and that gives me more flexibility. So when the caucus moves, or he sees a need for a particular position to take, it's easier for him to stake it out. Now, he did make some big changes, like he used to be completely anti-gun and completely against concealed carry. But then when the federal court came down and said Illinois needed to have a concealed carry law, he was there to figure out how to bring the two sides together, listen and pull different elements that the two really disparate sides, hunters' rights versus inner city anti-gun folks, and get a bill that could be passed and voted on by people from disparate positions in different ends of the state. He also was one who could find a way to justify a position. For example, when gay rights or gay marriage bill came up, it didn't go through immediately. In fact, it took several years, but then it started building momentum. And then when it looked like it was getting close, the Pope came out and said, "Who am I to judge?" And Madigan cited that comment on the floor. So here was a guy, Southside Irish Catholic guy who ended up voting for gay marriage. He ended up voting for an expansion of abortion rights. He ended up voting for the abolishment of the death penalty. And of course, he voted for many tax increases along the way. And so he took the position that of how it would help him politically consolidate his power, and how it would help the individual members, and how it would help the state as a whole. But he looked at things through the political lens.
You know, I know for a fact that Madigan had respect for Jim Thompson, Jim Edgar, George Ryan, even if he fought with them politically doing his job.
Right.
But then Blagojevich comes along, and, you know, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you can look back today and say he was kind of a bumbling doofus as governor. You know, Pat Quinn was a legislative lightweight at times. Obviously, Madigan despised Bruce Rauner. And there had to be a part of this where he had to feel like, I'm the one in charge here.
Yeah.
Even with guys in his own party, was it a matter of, I know more than you, or was it I have more consolidated power than you as the governor?
Well, I think he could take a position and back it up. So if, for example, Blagojevich started proposing an extra $900 million for schools, or something that the state couldn't afford, it sounds like a great idea, but Madigan could put his foot down and be the adult in the room. And I believe that a lot of people looked at Madigan to stand up to folks like Blagojevich, who were not just conventionally out of whack, they were just completely out of whack with the rest of the system. And he would try all kinds of things that were not constitutional, or were not within the laws, or were not even within the rules of what he was allowed to do. And as a result, somebody had to call him out. And Republicans didn't have the strength to do that, because they were in the minority parties in both the House and the Senate. And Madigan would have to be the one that was the voice of reason, if you will. Senate President Enoch Jones at the time was aligned with Blagojevich on a lot of the various ideas that Blagojevich wanted to push, but it wasn't always acceptable, because it was viewed as out of the mainstream, or just not a good idea fiscally for the state, for some of the policies that Blagojevich was pushing, and Madigan would stand up and block them. In fact, he would even sometimes push the House into overtime, so that it would take more than a simple majority vote to pass a budget, but rather a super majority, and that would require Republican votes, and that would strengthen his hand as a leader too.
Well, and you could see just the political prowess, you know, when it was 2016, 2017, whatever year the budget impasse with Rauner was.
Right.
That the way Rauner went at him, went at Madigan, he just ended up getting completely steamrolled.
Right.
You know, you saw firsthand the political practitioner that Madigan was, and it turned into the overtime, Rauner getting killed on the budget impasse, the funding issues, and then gets rolled by members of his own party with a tax increase and passing a budget. was that his goal in those situations, was to, it couldn't have been in that sense, let's make a deal and get this done on May 31st, 2016, whatever it was, if it was 16, 17.
Yeah, they ended up, they made it through the first, short sprint, but they then went 2 straight years without a budget, which is relatively unheard of. Not even relatively, it's
Completely
unheard of nationwide. And so Illinois was had all these different programs like human services and DCFS and prisons and all these state police and all these jobs and programs that were costing money and would be paid for because court orders required them to be paid for. And as you remember, Rauner had argued that there should not be an increase, or that the temporary income tax increase that was for 4 years that expired right when he was coming into office. Rauner argued that you didn't need that. So they let that expire, and that just really put the pressure on too, because there were so many bills building up that they eventually got to somewhere around $15 billion in out of whack. And schools were suffering, universities were suffering, human services were suffering, and Republicans saw this as a problem in their districts too. And so Madigan Madigan saw this building up in a bipartisan way, and he picked off Republicans to vote for the tax increase that Rauner didn't want them to do. And the interesting thing was that Rauner knew that Madigan was doing this to him, and he could not stop him, no matter how hard he tried.
Which might say more about Bruce Rauner than Mike Madigan in that issue.
True.
But we'll leave that there. Real quick, as the walls closed in politically in 2021, as Madigan lost the speakership, we knew he was still working behind the scenes trying to convince some of the early holdouts, but you knew you needed, it was 17 or 18, it ended up being 19 that said, we're not going to vote for him. When did he know that he had lost the grip on his caucus and that it was over?
I think he was trying right up until maybe a day or two before the end. And then he really realized that the 19 holdouts were not going to break. So he had to give others a chance to round up the 60 votes. I'm not so sure that he still didn't hold out that others could not get the 60 votes needed. And he had something like 73 Democrats, but in the caucus overall. But the group stayed together, and they would not give in. And it took a while for him to be convinced of that, but eventually he did, and he let others see if they could round up the votes. And then he even gave Chris Welch some advice on how to do it by going out to secure his entire Black caucus, secure the downstate votes, secure the Latino votes. And then they were able to put it together, and Chris Welch was able to put together the votes, and Madigan got out of the way. If you look at the pictures from that time period while he was down there, he just looked deflated, and that he had lost the verve that was in his step, and he knew that he was now on his way out.
And that was actually my theory when he put out that statement that he was suspending, was that he was waiting for the caucus to come back after 10, 12, 14 days of not being able to find a speaker and say, I'll come back and help you kids get this sorted out.
Yeah. And he was, I think he did not expect it to come together for somebody else that quickly, but he hasn't given up the entire game plan himself.
So before we let you go, Ray, a couple of final things on the criminal case, which I think ties into politically too. This isn't Law and Order where it goes from crime to conviction in 42 minutes with commercials. This will be a long, drawn out process, and that means it will have an impact on Democrats in the election in 2022.
I think they'll try to run from it, but they are going to be hard pressed to say that they didn't know this guy named Mike Madigan. And the Republicans will do everything they can to hang Madigan's woes around the necks of the Democratic opponents as like an albatross to try to weigh them down. You may have gotten a preview of something like that when you saw how Republicans hung Madigan around the neck of Tom Kilbride when he ran for retention in the 3rd District for the Illinois Supreme Court, and he lost. The only time a Supreme Court justice lost a retention race, and Madigan had backed Kilbride for 20 years and was trying to help him win a 3rd 10-year term, and it just didn't work. And it also hurt J.B. Pritzker's attempt to try to put a graduated income tax on top of the people who have the highest paychecks. So those kinds of things led to parties starting to split and feel that Madigan had run his string out and that it was time to go.
I've said I'm skeptical of the indictment and the charges until we hear some tapes. We've seen a couple of the quotes that were in the indictment, of course, but it seems like you have a plausible argument from the defense to just say McLean was out on his own, trying to make himself look more powerful, and that Madigan never actually encouraged him or told him to do these things.
Well, and in fact, Madigan has said that if there was an attempt by ComEd to try to woo me to do this, to fall into this plan that give me a few jobs for some of my cronies, and then I will support your legislative agenda, that he says he did not have any idea was happening. Now, he's a smart guy, so it's hard to read his mind, but that's the position he takes.
Is this, the federal government doesn't take cases to indictment, to trial, that it doesn't think it can win. I mean, it has a 80 or a 98% conviction rate or whatever. So it makes you think that the federal government doesn't believe they're just taking a chance here.
Yeah, I don't think they're being cavalier here because they have spent so much time on it. Now, the question is, did they spend so much time because it was hard to find anything? Or the question is, was it something that is so complicated, it took them a while to piece it all together? We'll probably find out more about that as we see the trial unfold, or whether at least see the court case unfold, whether it goes to trial or not, who knows. But this will be one for the ages. And this indictment is viewed in the political world as the mother of all indictments, because it knocked a hole in the reputation of the biggest and most powerful, longtime, most powerful politician in the state.
Final question, most important one. Is the Apple thing real?
Yes, it is. And I am trying to remember if I ever actually saw him with an apple, or whether I've just heard the story so many times that I knew it was real. But yes, he has talked about the apple before. And I think Honeycrisp was one of his favorites. And he has sliced up the apple in front of people who begin to wonder if that's the future of their fate with him and their political issues that they're placing before him too. So yes, it's been a long time thing with him, and he's been trying to hone to that to try to stay healthy.
Ray Long from the Chicago Tribune has the new book, The House That Madigan Built. Ray, where can they find it?
Well, the University of Illinois Press has a website that you could go to. You could just put my name in Google too, and put The House That Madigan Built in, both in quotes, my name and the book's name, and you will find all kinds of opportunities. The U of I Press, you can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and other spots too. It should be hitting bookshelves in March 22nd.
Great. Ray Long, we appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk again as this case unfolds, because you know it probably better than anyone else. So Ray, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you. Good to be here.